before skyscrapers, before borders, before the United States even existed. This land already had a soul. For more than 15,000 years, Native Americans lived, fought, loved, prayed, and died on this soil. They built civilizations without steel, laws without prisons, and spirituality without books. Yet today, their story is often reduced to a footnote, a caricature in an old Western movie. This is not that version. This is the real, powerful, and heartbreaking history of Native Americans, the first people of America. Native Americans did not just suddenly appear. The story begins in a world of ice. Scientists believe their ancestors crossed a frozen land bridge called Bering, a vast plain connecting Asia and North America during the last ice age. They were hunters and gatherers, following herds of mammoths and other giant beasts into a new world. Over thousands of years, these pioneers and their descendants spread across the entire continent. They adapted and thrived in every imaginable environment, from the icy Arctic tundra to the lush tropical forests of the south, from the sun-scorched deserts of the southwest to the vast, grassy plains of the heartland and the rugged mountains of the west. By the time the first European ships appeared on the horizon, over 10 million people already called North America home. And they were not one single people. They were a vibrant mosaic of hundreds of distinct tribes, each with its own language, its own culture, its own laws, and its own unique identity. The Cherokee, the Navajo, the Sioux, the Apache, the Iroquois, the Hopi, the Comanche. Each name represents a nation, a people who had perfected a way of life in harmony with their land. To understand life before the Europeans arrived, you have to forget our modern ideas about ownership and wealth. Native American societies were deeply, spiritually connected to nature. They did not believe that humans owned the land. They believed they belonged to the land, that they were a part of it, just like the rivers, the trees, and the animals. Their lives were a direct reflection of their environment. The tribes of the Great Plains followed the massive buffalo herds, using every part of the animal for food, shelter, and tools. The tribes of the eastern forests hunted deer and cultivated gardens of corn, beans, and squash. The desert tribes of the southwest became masters of survival, finding water and sustenance where others saw only barren rock. And along the coasts, tribes lived from the bounty of the sea. Their homes were built from the earth itself, from wood, soil, animal skins, and stone without scarring the landscape. Community and family were the cornerstones of society, valued far more than individual wealth or status. Elders were not seen as old, but as living libraries of wisdom, holding the history, the laws, and the spirit of their people. Stories, songs, and traditions were passed down orally, from one generation to the next, a chain of memory stretching back into the mists of time. This was not a primitive world. It was a balanced one, and many of these societies were far from simple. In fact, many people do want to realize that Native Americans had developed advanced political systems long before Europe's Age of Enlightenment. Take the Iroquois Confederacy, for example. It was a powerful alliance of multiple tribes, united under a sophisticated council system built on debate, equality, and consensus. It was a government that valued peace and cooperation. Even more remarkably, women played a powerful and respected role in leadership, a concept almost unheard of in most of the ancient world. Many historians believe this very system of representative government, with its checks and balances, later influenced the thinking of America's founding fathers as they drafted the U.S. Constitution. But the contributions didn't stop there. Native Americans were brilliant innovators. They pioneered agriculture, domesticating plants that now feed the entire world like corn, potatoes, and tomatoes. They developed effective medicines from native plants, knowledge we are only now beginning to rediscover. They were keen astronomers, creating complex calendars based on the movements of the sun, moon, and stars. They established vast trade networks that crisscrossed the continent, moving goods, ideas, and culture over thousands of miles. America was not an empty, wild continent when Europeans arrived. It was a thriving world, full of complex societies and ancient cultures. In the year 1492, everything changed. Christopher Columbus and the European explorers who followed did not just bring guns, steel, and a thirst for gold. They brought invisible killers, diseases like smallpox, measles, and influenza, to which Native Americans had absolutely no immunity. The impact was catastrophic, an apocalypse that swept across the continent faster than any army. Entire villages vanished in a matter of weeks. Some tribes lost up to 90% of their population without ever seeing a single soldier. It was one of the greatest demographic disasters in human history. Then came what followed: the relentless theft of land, the forced conversion to a foreign religion, a long and tragic history of broken treaties and brutal massacres, what European history books often call settlement and expansion. Native Americans experienced as a violent and relentless invasion that sought to erase them from their own land. But Native Americans did not surrender quietly. They resisted. They fought back with incredible courage and strategic brilliance. Great leaders rose from the chaos, their names now etched into legend. Sitting Bull, the spiritual leader of the Lakota, who foretold the victory at Little Bighorn. Crazy Horse, the brilliant and elusive warrior who fought to defend his people's way of life. Tecumseh, the Shawnee chief, who tried to unite the eastern tribes into a great confederacy to stop the American advance. Geronimo, the Apache leader, who defied both Mexican and U.S. forces for decades. They fought not for gold or for power, but for their families, their land, and their very existence. Legendary battles, like the Battle of the Little Bighorn, proved that Native warriors, with their superior knowledge of the terrain and tactics, could decisively defeat modern, technologically advanced armies. But in the end, the sheer weight of numbers, superior technology, and a policy of betrayal and broken promises slowly but surely crushed the armed resistance. Still, their courage became an immortal legend of defiance against overwhelming odds. Following the wars came one of the darkest chapters in American history. In the 1830s, the U.S. government passed laws like the Indian Removal Act, which forced entire native tribes off their ancestral lands in the southeast. Thousands of families Cherokee, Choctaw, Chickasaw, Creek, and Seminole were marched at gunpoint for thousands of miles, with little food, water, or shelter, to designated territory west of the Mississippi River. This forced journey became known as the Trail of Tears. The name is no exaggeration. Thousands died along the way: men, women, children, and the elderly. They didn't die in battle. They died from disease, starvation, and heartbreak, in silence, their bodies buried in unmarked graves far from home. The survivors were pushed onto reservations, often on barren, unproductive land that no one else wanted. Their freedom gone, their world shattered, and yet, despite everything, they survived. Against all odds, through poverty, oppression, and systematic attempts to erase their culture, Native Americans survived. They held on to what they had left. They preserved their languages, often in secret. They continued their ceremonies, sometimes hidden from view. They kept their songs and their stories alive, passing them to their children. Today, Native Americans are still here. They are doctors, lawyers, artists, teachers, and leaders. They continue to fight for their rights, for the return of their land, for the recognition of their sovereignty, and for the protection of their sacred cultural heritage. And in a world facing a climate crisis and social division, their ancient values of balance with nature, respect for elders, and the importance of community feel more relevant and necessary than ever. They are not a relic of history. They are a living, breathing, and vital part of America's present and future. The story of Native Americans is not just a story of loss and tragedy, though there is much of that. More than anything, it is a story of profound resilience. It is a story of identity, of holding on to who you are against a force that wants to make you disappear. It is the ultimate story of survival against impossible odds. To truly understand America, to understand its complexities, its contradictions, unhit soul, you must first understand its first people. Because a land without its memory has no future. If this story moved you and you want to learn more about the histories that are often left untold, please consider liking this video, sharing it with others, and subscribing to our channel. Thank you for watching.